It is time for an activity that I think you can actually profit from. And if you'd done it last week with us, we had Hold or Fire, which we're going to do each and every week here, and give you those numbers here on a Monday, Tuesday, college and pro football, and see if we can find the best of the number. You made the point earlier. Oh, I love the graphic. Absolutely love it. We get some fire out there or hold. Let's talk about the Thursday game. If you watched the Steelers offensively, you went, ugh, that's not fun. 2 weeks in a row against Cincinnati, and then yesterday against New England and lost. Now you're going to go to the Brownies, who are licking their wounds after what was the stat?
They were the first team to blow a 13-point lead with 2 minutes or less remaining in the last 2,229 games. The last team to do it, the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, wow.
In 2001 against the Bears.
2001 against the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly Holcomb? I don't know. Who's the quarterback back?
Probably
Tim
sounds
Couch?
about right.
I don't know.
It sounds about right.
Tim Couch still in there? You don't want to think about those days if you're a Browns fan. Okay, so now we come into the Thursday night selection here. And the Brownies, it's that dead number of 5. Look at the total. I mean, we are going backwards in the NFL. Every rule favors the offense.
Yeah.
And yet they can't hit overs. 39 and a half. 39 and a half on a Thursday. But I got to say, and we'll figure out if you want to back the Steelers, would you hold or fire on the 5 now, anticipating where we think the line might go?
I would hold because if the line comes down, it doesn't
necessarily hurt you.
Doesn't hurt you that much.
Right.
I don't think we're going to get to 4. And if it goes up, it benefits you. So I would hold on the Steelers. On the Browns, I mean, I wouldn't fire at 5. To me, I think these are both hold sides. I don't see any advantage one way or the other.
There it is. That's where you're going to try to manipulate the market movement, right? So Amal is not, if we're not certain where we think the number is going to go,
correct. That's
where you're going to hold. And you're going to see if you can get the better of the number depending on the side. And then what you might do, let's say you like the Browns, and then all of a sudden you go, oh no, it didn't move, right? It went against me. Now it's 5.5. Then maybe you take it at 5.5 instead of letting it get to a worse number of 6. So you're waiting to see if that line moves off a half either way. And if it's to your advantage, great. Then you fire. If it goes against you, you might want to think about holding at that spot. The total, 39.5. Hold or fire if you want to back the over.
I would probably fire because I don't think coming down hurts you that much. It goes up. It could be a little bit worse, but I would fire if you're going to take a look at this one here.
I agree. I don't know that the total will get much lower than 39.5.
Exactly.
So if you like the over, I would fire on a Monday. If you like the under, I would hold and see if this can get up to 40, 41, or 40, 40.5 potentially. By the way, no Jadeveon Clowney in this game on Thursday. So, by the way, it always makes me think of Steve Spurrier back in South Carolina. Jadeveon's going to play when Jadeveon wants to play. He's not going to play on Thursday. He is an enigma wrapped inside of a riddle. Because when the kid is right, he's not a kid anymore. He's a man. He's still a dominant force inside that front four. But when he's not healthy and or not mentally there, I don't know what you get with Jadeveon Clowney. I can't even figure out what team he is on. What team 5? I mean, he's been just bandied about the NFL.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. He did have a crucial sack fumble in the game yesterday, but that would be a little bit of a loss from a Browns perspective. This is a game where I think both teams approach it from a conservative standpoint. You've got good defenses against offenses that leave a lot to be desired, really 2 backup quarterbacks. This is going to be an interesting game, Dave, in terms of when you look at it, how it could potentially play out.
So, again, kind of the battle of the bad there. Maybe it's the battle of the worst in the next game. Texans against the Bears. I mean, who's going to watch this? I mean, we're going to bet it, but who's going to watch it? Now the Bears.
This
only people that bet it, Dave.
This is
watching it. Only if you bet it.
This has got to be the Greg Gumbel, Adam Archuleta special game here. I mean, you kidding me? This game was made for him.
I think me, you, and Kelley will be on the call. They're going to just throw us out there. Okay, hold or fire. My goodness. If you want to back the Bears.
Fire.
You want to fire on the Bears now?
If you like it. If you like the Bears, yes.
Because you think because it's under the 3 key number that we talked about with the Steelers last week. Excellent advice. So if you're a Bears backer, I don't know how you are. If you're a Bears backer, you fire on the 3. If you're a Texans backer, you hold.
Correct.
And hope it gets to 3.
Correct.
And again, if you were a Steelers backer last week and you listened to us and you held, you got the 3 eventually, and you got to push. Yeah. So that's where that half is so big. Look at the total again. We're back in 1988. It's 40. You just don't see totals this low.
I think I might be looking at the Texans in a teaser on this one if we don't hit that 3. I kind of want to vomit saying that, Amal, but this Bears team is just they have nothing on offense. Get up to 8.5 points. I think they hang around with how low this total is.
You mentioned the teaser. I went through the games yesterday. We've had, not including the Sunday night game. So the Packers won that one comfortably, including that game now. We had 14 games. Yeah, 10 of the 14 teams, if you teased them up, covered the number.
Mm-hmm. Teasing up.
Yes. And to Kelley's point, you get an 8.5 here with the Texans. Boy, it seems like a difficult number for them to be able to lose by and for the Bears to be able to cover. This team is not good. I'll tell you right now, I would fire and I would take the Texans right now plus 125 on the money line.
There you go. I like that play as well. I'm right there with you guys. Kelley, I'm with you in the teaser play as well. But exactly. After watching the Texans for the first 2 weeks, and I did watch them a lot yesterday. By the way, the Broncos just can't score at the 1-yard line. Just forget about it. Just bring on the field goal unit. So the Texans have been very competitive. They're 0-1-1.
Yeah.
The Bears at 1-1 would be more disappointing to me than the Texans at 0-1-1. Texans were in that football game with their defense, even though they didn't score a touchdown, at Mile High. So I think they're very playable. I'm with you. If you want to fire on the money line now, because you don't know where that line's going to go, take the plus $20.25. If you want to back the Texans on the spread and lay the 110, that's where you hold and see if it gets to 3.
I would agree with you. Absolutely. Very well said, Dave.
Yep. And again, that total at 40, neither one of these two teams in their 4 games combined have played an over game. They've all been unders so far for those two teams. Take that for what it's worth. Ooh, boy. Another hold your nose special. I hope Wes Reynolds is not watching, listening. I hope he's sleeping. Colts are getting 7 against the Chefs from Kansas City. Now, for the shoe, they didn't score at Jacksonville.
Well, it's more than that. They've scored outside of that 1/4 quarter against the Houston Texans. They've managed 3 points in 7 quarters.
Oh, my God. This is look, I saw Wes tweeting like Jim Irsay's got to be more involved because Chris Ballard and Frank Reich, maybe Frank Reich's really in the hot seat. Here's the oddity about this game, and let's talk about it from a Chiefs perspective. Hold or fire on the Chiefs laying the 7 on the Road, because the Chiefs last year, they were a smart play. If you took the points against the Chiefs because they were favored, I don't know that I feel the same way this year. 2-0 to start off the season here, the Chiefs. That great win. Now they have extra rest coming in this off the Thursday night game a week ago against the Chargers. They're laying 7 on the road. If you back the Chiefs, hold or fire on the 7.
I would hold because, again, if it goes up 7.5, I mean, obviously it's worse. But to me, you got a situation here where with the Colts, I actually think the number's going to come down a little bit.
I do too.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that right now, it might be the best to fire if you're a Colts. I know that's tough to say.
No, I agree with you. I would fire here if you like the Colts, absolutely.
Doesn't this have the same feel of the Cowboys-Bengals game line a week ago?
Very similar.
Where the Bengals were favored by 7. It fluctuated up to 7.5. Never got to 8.
Correct.
But then it came back to 7. I have the same feeling it's going to be a 7.5, but maybe down to 6.5 this week.
I completely agree with you. I think this number comes down. I think we see money on the Colts here.
Oh, boy. Seriously, though, what's wrong with Indy? Like, you're not running your great running back, Jonathan Taylor, out of the backfield. Matty Ice, I know they didn't have Michael Pittman yesterday. You hope to have him back. Keep a look on that for the injury report. But my goodness, Amal, it looks like a mess.
Yeah, but the problem with Matt Ryan is, I saw on a sack yesterday, this guy dropped like a bag of bricks going into water. As soon as the pressure gets around him, he just went straight down. I'm like, come on, buddy, you got to stay in the pocket and you got to actually go out there and compete. I just don't think he's done enough of that. And for me, that's my area of concern when I look at them.
Do we worry that the Chiefs might be a little inflated on the road now because they've looked so good in the first 2 weeks?
I would agree with you in terms of the number, absolutely. I think, look, Kansas City's going to probably find a way to eke out a win, but it's not a shocker to me if Indy wins the football game.
And very quickly, that total is at 49 right now as we talk on a Monday. Remember, the Colts haven't played an over yet, and it's hard to get an over when you get shut out against Jacksonville. Do you trust that they find their offense against a defense in Kansas City that could be indifferent at times?
Great word choice, and I think if you're not going to find it against Kansas City, you're probably going to have some struggles against other teams. I thought that was a game the Chargers probably should have won. They're coming off of a win, 3 days additional rest time for KC, but I'm with you, Dave. I think this is one where you look at the Colts here plus the 7.
All right, so we'll keep a watchful eye on there. We're going to do some more hold or fire coming back here with the NFL slate as we look ahead at those lines here on a Monday. Let's talk a little bit more about some of the games that we see on the slate. Hold or fire on a Monday. And I wanted to pick your brain about this because the Bills now, wow, after what we saw, and I don't know what we saw from Tua Tagovailoa yesterday, now the Fighting Fish are going to catch 4.5 at home in South Beach as the Bills, who are playing tonight, will have a short week, make the trek down south, and lay 4.5. Look at that total, 50.5. Okay, if you're a backer of the Bills, hold or fire without knowing any of the injuries that might come out of tonight's game, how they looked in tonight's game, what would you do with the Buffalo Bills a little bit blind before they play their second game of the year?
To me, I wouldn't touch it either way, so I would say hold because I'm not really sure which way I would go on this one. A lot of it's going to be predicated upon how Buffalo appears. I think if Buffalo doesn't play particularly well, you'll see the number come down. If they play extremely well the way they did in Week 1 against the Rams, you'll see the number go up. So I think you have to take a bit of a pause when you look at this game. So for me, I wouldn't touch this one.
And again, that total at 50.5, what do you make of that number? Do you think it goes up or down? So let's say you're backing the under. Let's say you want to play the under because it's a big number, 50.5.
Yeah.
Would you hold or fire on that number today, not knowing what the Bills are going to look like? And we never root for injuries, but we saw it with Trey Lance yesterday. They happen.
A very good point.
Especially with running quarterbacks, which Josh Allen is, a mobile quarterback. Would you be more apt to play the under today, knowing that they're going to have a short week? And who knows how dinged up they might be coming out of tonight?
It's a fair argument. I got to tell you, Dave, I don't get involved in totals as much anymore. I used to be a big NFL under guy. Now I tend to be a little bit more on the overside, but still primarily under. So for me, I would take a wait-and-see approach. I just don't believe Miami's offense is as good as they showed in the fourth quarter. I think Miami's offense is what we saw against New England and what we saw for 3 quarters against the Baltimore Ravens. So I would be more apt to play the under here at 50.5. Because Buffalo's going to have to do the heavy lifting in this one, in my opinion, if you're going to score points.
We just talked about blown coverages. Yeah. How many blown coverages do the Ravens have in the fourth quarter?
Exactly.
I mean, Tyreek Hill is just running free. So it happens each and every week. Let's take a look at what could be an intriguing matchup. But again, and it's almost the theater of the unknown because the Lions now, coming off their first win of the season, they beat the Commanders yesterday. Now they're going to go to the Vikings, and the Vikings playing tonight. On a Monday night, we know it's going to be a tough game in Philadelphia tonight. We don't know win, lose, or draw how this is going to play out. Look at that total, 52.5. I told you I love the lines over the first 2 weeks. Those have cashed. Now that total is getting up there. Vikings are going to be on the short week. They will be at home. What would you do if you like the Lions? Hold or fire on the 7?
I would fire. Because I think that's a big number. I think it'll come down a little bit. You mentioned, I think this is going to be a tough game against Philadelphia. And to me, you mentioned the shorter week, Detroit coming off of the win. Good opportunity here for them. They're not necessarily going to slow down this Minnesota team, but I think their offense is efficient enough to be able to potentially get a backdoor cover. You get 7. Look, anytime in the NFL, you get these big numbers. We saw it yesterday. San Francisco dominated Seattle. They had the block field goal for the touchdown. But other than that, we saw Houston cover the number. We see so many of these teams so many times competitive. The Bears were obviously, they had an opportunity as well, right? It came down to a fourth and goal. For some reason, you want to give the opponent a 5-yard head start by taking a shotgun snap, which I never understand.
Because the last time he took a snap under center was when he was in 5th grade. I mean, that's why.
He doesn't know how. So he's taking the snap at the 5-yard line to gain 2 inches.
It just amazes me that enough teams don't practice this. I think it's such a crucial part of the game.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm with you. And by the way, the Lions traditionally play the Vikings tough. Look at last year.
Well, perfect example last year, right? They come from behind, take a lead, and it took a miracle by the Vikings on a field goal to be able to win that game. So I think Dave brings up a really good point. I think some of these numbers are pretty good for you here if you're looking at that. I don't know if you ever do this, Dave or Kelley, but one of my favorite things to do sometimes if you get the right game, a game like this is a perfect example of it. In a teaser, you take the Vikings down to 1 and you take the Lions to 13 or 14, depending on if you go 6 or 7. And then you don't have to win 2 games. You just hope the one game finishes in between 14. And this, to me, feels like one of those types of games.
I love that. I think it's a great pro tip there. That, again, if you're kind of indifferent as to where it is, now you've increased the spectrum.
Yeah.
Right, that you're looking for in this case scenario. If you tease down the Vikings to 1, teased up the Lions to 13, Vikings just win by 12 or 2, and we're golden.
Yeah, absolutely.
That gives you a nice variance there to begin some of your teaser plays.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll do that. I'll tell you the one I've got circled for this game, and one of the games tonight, I haven't made the bet yet because I had some teasers tied into the Vikings tonight that went down. I might be doing a Vikings teaser. Vikings up to 8.5 tonight, and then tease next week's game down.
Oh, that's pretty good. I like
I'm
that.
not sure I've ever done that before, but I'm looking at it.
So that's
like
like
that.
an all-purple teaser.
Absolutely right.
I kind of like. I don't think I've ever seen one of those. An all Vikings tease.
I'm like, to his point on this one, I am fired up about this game. Look, I'm not as excited about the Tennessee-Buffalo game, but I'm looking forward to seeing these two teams. I was completely wrong, and I know it's only 1 week, but I underestimated both teams and their offensive capabilities, and you look like both teams are going to be really a force to be reckoned with. Jalen Hurts' mobility really puts a lot of pressure on the defense. I like Kelley's play here. You're probably getting 8.5, 9, 9.5, depending on if you take 6, 6.5, or 7. So for me, that's something I would definitely consider if you're looking at this matchup.
Well, selfishly, as a guy who hopped in on the Cowboys on Friday to win the NFC East at 7-1, let's go Skull. I mean, come on, Vikes. Let's make that division a little bit more interesting. We'll see how that plays out.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.